Welcome to Tuesday, May 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo. The weather is going to be okay. Not great, but typical early May weather coming. Certainly we're not going to be as warm this week as we were last week, but the next couple of days, we're going to have a little bit of wind. But today and Wednesday across most of the Intermountain West and the Western High Plains will be pretty decent. Mild temperatures, plenty of sunshine. Just be ready for some gusty winds at times. Now, there is a cold front due Thursday and Friday. This is especially true for northern Wyoming, southern Montana, and western South Dakota, where you're going to get wet. It'll be windy and cooler elsewhere Thursday and Friday. Then very cold weather is going to sink into the Midwest and Great Lakes later this week and through Mother's Day weekend and into next week. We're still looking at the worst of the cold air staying just to the east of us. But it is a pattern where certainly it is going to be colder just to our east, way below average. We'll show you that here in a minute. We hope it stays to our east. Right now we're on the razor's edge. It really depends on what side of the divide you're on. If you're watching and listening to this podcast and you're on the western side of Wyoming, western side of Colorado, you're in Utah or Idaho, or eastern Oregon, eastern Washington, you're on the warm side of things. But if you're east of the Continental Divide, well, it's a bit of a different situation, as east of the Continental Divide is where all the cold air is going to be found later this week and into next week. This is the precipitation forecast through Friday. We talked about northern Wyoming and southern Montana and western South Dakota and into Nebraska being the most wet. This strip right here, we're going to see the Thursday-Friday cold front take its precipitation through that area there. You can see that most of Colorado, southwest Kansas, the Four Corners region, really not getting any precipitation where they really need it. So most of the weather that looks wet through Friday is going to be along Interstate 90, sections of I-25 in those areas. Taking a look at temperatures on Wednesday. Now, what I'm showing you, I'm going to show you a few maps here that show you temperatures relative to normal. And the numbers you see are how much temperatures in Fahrenheit are going to be above average during the warmest part of the day. Anywhere you see green, blue, or purple, colder than normal. Anywhere you see a bright orange or brown, warmer than normal. The warmest day of the week is Wednesday. You can see this tongue of warmth gets pushed into here, and we got some warm air coming out of California and the desert states. So the warmest day this week coming up is Wednesday. By Thursday, you can see this pocket of colder air here coming down the divide and right across this region here. You do see it gets a little cooler west of the divide as well. And Wednesday night and Thursday, this whole area right here going to get really windy as this front sweeps through very quickly. So a nice warm day Wednesday, noticeably colder Thursday into Friday. By Mother's Day Sunday, this is a really remarkable graphic here because I want to show you what the difference is between what side of the Continental Divide you're on or not. We see this all the time where the Continental Divide really is the dividing line between warm and cold. And one reason for this is that cold air east of the Continental Divide here, cold air is closer to the ground. Cold air is more dense and it's more heavy, so it's close to the ground. So when it runs into mountain barriers, like the Continental Divide, the cold air has got to get deep enough to jump over the divide to make the western slope cold. But this shallow, we call it a shallow cold air mass, it's not very deep. It might only be 1,000 or 2,000 feet thick. That's why it's not going to get over the divide. So west of the Continental Divide, look how warm it is. Very, very warm here. This is how it's going to be for the upcoming Mother's Day weekend. West of the Divide, a nice Mother's Day weekend. East of the Divide, kind of chilly, especially Sunday into Monday with these below average temperatures. One thing the computer models are notoriously bad at are these very thin Canadian air masses. Thin meaning only 1,000 or 2,000 feet thick from the ground up above us. They a lot of times don't draw the cold air far enough west. So we're going to be a little bit more bullish with the cold temperatures Sunday and Monday than you're going to see in forecasts right now, just because the models just don't handle Canadian air masses very well, especially in the spring. And the mantra to always remember about the weather models: all weather models are wrong. but some are useful. So you have to make some adjustments. Now, this is what the cold air looks like if we were to take a big, broad look at all of North America. This is for Mother's Day afternoon. You can see the Continental Divide, the dividing line. Look at all the purple and the green and the blue. The blue goes all the way down into the Gulf Coast. Now, this is ridiculously cold for early May for the eastern side of the United States. The cold air looks like it reaches the peak by Tuesday. Again, look at the divide. Look at that Continental Divide holding up the cold air. But these are some really cold temperatures. These are as much as 30 degrees below average by Tuesday. It may be that Tuesday of next week ends up being the coldest day of all east of the divide. What that means is freezing nighttime temperatures and daytime temperatures that may only make the 40s and lower 50s. Now, as we go out further, we'll see that this should change. But here is the reason. Here is the forecasted jet stream for Sunday morning. Big high pressure in Western Canada, allowing this big trough to cover the eastern side of Canada and the eastern sides of the United States. There's a spoke of cold there. Here's another spoke of cold here, coming on in, driving colder air at the ground towards areas of the central and eastern United States. And you can see the trajectory of the air comes right over the Continental Divide. This is what snow forecast is looking like over the next 10 days. And you can see where the cold air is. These are some pretty impressive snow totals, or at least the risk of that for this time of year in the Great Lakes, New England. The mountains of West Virginia, could they get snowed on? Yeah, it is going to be a pretty big push south. Look at this. There's even a hint of a few flakes of snow in the mountains of North Carolina by the time we get to early next week. And even across parts of the Intermountain West, there's going to be cold enough cold air that more mountain snow is going to come. So we're not quite there yet, even though we had 80s and 90s last week. By 10 days from now, by next Thursday and Friday, the jet stream really flattens out. So if it flattens out, that means Pacific air is coming in. So we are going to be looking at some crazy temperature differences across the region through the middle of next week. By late next week, temperatures even out and the nation starts to warm up again. However, we still have to keep an eye on this because this is still a pocket of really cold air. This is still a really good pocket of cold air here. We get these pockets coming in. What will likely happen is one of these guys here, probably this guy, is going to likely end up coming in about 2 weeks' time, bringing a wet pattern, a slow-moving wet May storm, probably around the 20th or so of May, something that we'll need to keep an eye on. And that would be the type of May storm that brings widespread precipitation, wet conditions. After that storm is likely, when you go back and look at historical patterns, the way the weather works around here during the month of May, then you're getting closer to that Memorial Day weekend when we start to see a more early summer pattern start to evolve. Thanks for listening and watching the Day Weather Podcast. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.